everybody? Welcome back to CGL, where playoffs are getting underway. We have a great matchup in the NA Open tier as Subsun takes on CESU. My name is Dextron. That is so abdominant. Man, how are you doing here tonight?
It's good to be back with you, Dex. It's good to be back with you, but in particular, especially after the pig show, which was quite an interesting bit. We ended up with this. The Open Division in particular was like if you missed it, the top four, they buy into round two. So this is interesting because Subsun did get to choose here. They got the choice to take the bottom tier CESU, unfortunately, for the CESU squad. So on paper, it's kind of clear, but I mean, we just came out of March Madness, so I don't write off anything. There's plenty of time for the CESU squad to level up.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at it this way, especially talking about Subsun picking them. This is a match actually between two Group 1 teams. These two teams have faced off against each other one time this season, and Subsun won that one in a 3-0 sweep, I believe, all the way back in week number 3 of this season. So it's been a while since these two teams have played, but if you're Subsun, you pick this team, you played like one to kind of know what to expect. But if I also remember correctly, week 3 was the first week that perks were a thing. I feel like everyone was trying to figure out what to really do with them because CGL immediately just implemented them.
Yeah, we were one of those groups that perks when they came out. We also threw in hero bands and a lot of groups, particularly collegiate. A lot of collegiate spaces are considered hero bands. We have a traditional map band and pick phases that have been pretty standard, but CGL has actually, I think, been kind of one of the tougher places for a lot of these teams. It's been a great test, particularly for the Open Division. Especially teams like the number 1 seed here. But we'll talk about more in a minute. We've got to get some tech stuff taken care of, so we'll be back in just a quick second. Hang tight. It's Tuesday, baby. It's just what it is.
All right. We believe we've solved all the technical issues we were having, so we should be good to go here, Soab. But we're immediately going to hop straight into hero bans here first. And Subsun, being the higher seat, will have the first ban of the night here. And heading into our map, Samoa, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that could come out with here. And it looks like they're going with Sojourn. And on the other side, CESU, going with Malga. That's a really interesting ban here, considering you don't really see that much Malga anymore.
Yeah, I have questions on both of these ones. Like Sojourn is kind of the hit scan of choice for a lot of ways, so that's very fascinating for Subsun to kind of take that away. And there's, like you said, like Malga kind of got hit really hard with the banhammer and the hammer, so I guess that's just something maybe they just feel like they can't win it. He is still really strong in the right hands. We've seen a lot of teams that can still kind of manage that across various formats, but generally, yeah, Malga's not like a must play anymore. So these are some actually interesting bans, especially with the map we're going to. I'm very curious to how this plays out.
Yeah, and this Malga ban kind of seems like more of maybe something where CESU is looking back at what Subsun played when they played him all the way back in week 3, when Malga was very much, well, the meta. And I mean, it might be a comfort pick as well. You never know with these players. If something's not working, Malga might be the fallback, even though they're not strong. I have seen that a couple times at every level, so it would not be a surprise. But Sojourn, on the other hand, like you said, getting rid of a hit scan, player here early on. You do see it kind of often, but very early on, normally see these teams go for support, but no support's banned this time. It's going to be that DPS.
Yeah, I have to imagine that maybe this is like a preemptive kind of free up, so maybe even free up Sojourn down the road kind of a ban, just simply because like Sojourn Ashe, like Sojourn is like your pretty much your primary hit scans kind of play aside from Ashe. So if we were to end up maybe seeing these hit scans, I guess you're gonna go to Ashe. We did see, actually that's not true. That's not true. We've seen a lot more Cassidy nowadays. We're seeing a lot more Cassidy, Genji in the front lines if you were catching the relegation games maybe. More so, we saw a lot of Cass who did get, you know, the roll buff, who did get some HP, and did get some additional shots to that. So actually, that kind of might make sense in a lot of ways if we're kind of maybe just getting rid of Sojourn and thinking, well, we don't want to play our Cassidy into a much longer range Sojourn that we can't get onto. So actually, you know, with that in my mind now, I don't hate this, but it still feels like at this point in the playoffs, we'd still be just much more comfortable in Sojourn.
Yeah, absolutely. But knowing Subsun making this ban out here, I mean, they've played against CESU. They probably watched a couple of their games back here more recently. And knowing at least one of the players on this Subsun team, Ruby, is a Deadeye no matter who they're playing.
Yeah, sure.
Playing that Ashe, playing that Cassie is not really going to make that much of a difference when they're clicking heads, because we've seen them be able to do that in the past to great success here. But I mean, like we said, Samoa going to be our first map here of the night. But hey, before we head in there, why don't we introduce you to the two teams here, starting off with the higher seat of Subsun here on that DPS line. We already mentioned Ruby, and their counterpart is going to be Mabel. M21, your tank, Aunt Halen and Storia as your support line here. And I mean, this is a really good lineup. So I mean, they only lost 2 games throughout the entire regular season, and both those came by the hands of Dilducks.
Yeah, and that's kind of no joke when your only 2 losses is the #1 seed overall. Like listening to Ant talk and talking to them going into the picking choice, like this team felt very confident. They knew exactly what they were going to do, and there was just no worries. They just were ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. But on the other side for CESU here, I mean, they started off hot. They won their first two, had a little bit of a slip in weeks 3, 4, and 5 where they all got swept for losses. But LQD and Almaty as your DPS line, Phi as your tank, Forik and Sir Sanic as your support line here. I mean, this is a lineup that, I mean, coming into this one here, you lost against Subsun earlier on in the season. You're trying to make a little bit of an upset here, and I feel like this lineup might just be able to do it.
Yeah, when you kind of look back and you have the footage, you really do have a good chance to kind of pick and now tailor across this. You do have to kind of look back and say, well, where do we have our weaknesses? And just kind of showing a lot of these like tanky characters, the Malga, the Brig, it shows me that they might be willing to play a little bit more pokey, maybe kind of a little bit more patient, where like a Subsun team is very, very aggressive. So we'll have to see what they've really learned over the the past weeks of League.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have their a tough matchup here tonight because, like we said, Subsun only 2 losses were to Dildux. I mean, they lost 3-0 in week 1, and then the last week of the regular season, they took a map off Dildux, but still ended up losing that one 3-1 here. So, I mean, it's going to be a kind of a bounce back game here for Subsun. CESU, though, I mean, in their last 3 games, they only dropped 1 map, so they might be coming in here on a little bit of a hot streak. But looks like, hey, speaking of hot streaks, we're gonna be heading to Volcano here for our first sub map of the night.
Good old Volcano. Considering that this does give you a little bit more high ground to play into, and Lucio is on board, like I don't think oops are gonna be on the menu, but not as likely here. But this actual high ground that we're kind of seeing right now is going to be very important for a lot of these teams. You're going to see a lot of them maybe rotate up that way is to try to play around and get some sort of a high ground advantage while there's coverage on the map. CESU kind of showing about what I expect. They couldn't play Sojourn, so LQD is going to go to the Ash. I'm curious to see how it plays out. I kind of maybe think we should go to the cast, but that's not me. Meanwhile, Subsun, they are just going to run it down. Like this Junker Queen Hyper Rush is always, has been frequently strong on so many, and then adding the Reaper for the extra damage there, you're not necessarily worried about these hit scans. We kind of already said, look, we don't really care about the mid-range game, so we're just going to try to rush down those really vulnerable targets. So watch them from that high ground who they can find and isolate.
Looks like Subsun's good to try to play up for that high ground. Nice knife thrown out there by M21 early on. Going to be able to land on the LQD. Not going to be able to find them just yet, but it is forcing the CESU team back here a little bit as you see the aggressiveness come out here from Subsun pretty early on here. No kills going either way at the moment. Ant, though, immediately has to run back as each team kind of just poking each other out here at the moment.
Yeah, there's no real place to go. Kind of the more value pick. The thing for CESU is they haven't put in more of a defensive backline with this Brig, so there's no real way to get onto any isolated targets for the Subsun guys.
And you see M21 very low, but Maples will be the first one to fall, and that's what I was really cautious about with the Subsun team. That backline, not necessarily known for being able to get a lot of burst healing out there. CESU's, on the other hand, like you said, very defensive, can get that burst healing out there in spades. CESU, they're trying to find a couple more picks here, and they're going to be able to do just that.
Yeah, Subsun, unfortunately, just playing a little bit too passive there. It's kind of really hard because the target you want is the Ash, is LQD in the back, but I mean, she has just been absolutely building up. Those dynamites have been so crucial. They're already 45 to Bob, 15 above Ruby. They are leading across most of the heroes' ult charges, so that just tells you how much damage they're putting out and how they are able to chip away here. Subsun just need to play more aggressive. They need to take a gamble and just get all 5-man on somebody. It doesn't really matter. You can't wait for the perfect target. You need to just aggress now.
It kind of feels like they're waiting for Soria's Kitsune Rush at this moment. I mean, not that far away. It wouldn't surprise me if the moment they get it, they throw it out there to try to give themselves that aggressiveness that you expect from the Ruby. Immediately popping heads right there. There comes that Kitsune Rush. Vorik will be able to take care of M21, but a nice trade there onto the tanks. And you already see CSU backing up. They don't want to bleed out any more than what they've already lost this fight.
I mean, Storia didn't really even need the Kitsune Rush. They were just kind of...
Okay.
I got nothing for that one, Dex. I really don't know. I mean, they get some picks, and I guess that's enough, but that was an interesting choice.
Ruby will find out QD and Sir Sanic there. They will get the flip over, though, for CSU here. So even though this is an already lost fight, you're at least getting some percentage here right now. And right now, all you're doing is trying to stall out. A nice kind of play there by CSU. Even though you end up losing the point back, you basically got another free 13%.
I don't know that a Bob's worth 13% though. I feel like you could have, you know, held all 5 and reaggressed. You know that, you know, you had at least 1 hit advantage, but I mean, it got them something here. I mean, CESU does have pretty much everything else in the bag, and there's only 1 sound barrier, so M21, this Rampage actually needs to be huge. There's no cleanse, and this could be the difference maker.
Well, speaking of Rampages being huge, it does find 4 right there, forcing out the rally, but then the 4A, you're not going to be able to find anything with it right there. No Orbital Ray coming out as well, so that Rampage was everything you needed it to be and more, forcing out 3 ultimates right there for the price of 1, and you win the fight. You are very, very happy about that.
I mean, you threw an ant sound barrier too, but that was just to make sure you could continue to survive that. Yeah, there's no answer for Rampage right now. Maple does have the EMP also, and it's going to have to try to get onto Cersanic. You are leading the Bob race. Ruby is going to be coming around to another Bob sooner, so Bob is probably going to be the most impactful thing to close this out, so watch where the EMP lands.
There comes the Orbital Ray out from Sanic at the moment, and Subsun just seems like they don't really even want to deal with it, and I like that kind of play from them. With that ultimate fade away and then come back in with probably that Bob and an EMP.
Yeah, I mean, that was the right play. You don't have an answer for it, so just let them take it. You know it's going to be probably close to 1, if not 1.5 fights, and now you have the ult advantage.
EMP only lands on the 2, but you're able to get rid of 4A right there. LQD almost falls right there, but falls back far enough. Ruby getting rid of them early on right there for Almaty is huge for the rest of CESU. Right now, though, you need to be trying to keep Phi alive here. They're falling back, but they're going to fall right there. The Virus going to be able to take care of Almaty, and it looks like Subsun going to be able to retake the point here, trying to find maybe 1 more pick for the road.
Still no major perks on for a lot of these players worth noting here as we'll come up to the final fight. So a lot of those kind of perks are, those kind of, changing perks are going to be a little bit late here. I mean, Bob plus Kitsune Rush kind of just feels like this over. There's no defensive here, so this is probably all going to be all shit.
Well, there's the combo you were talking about. Phi gone in the blink of an eye. Sanic not even able to get a touch. You do see 1 touch coming out here from Almaty, but ain't going to be able to find them, and now it's just the rest of CESU falling by the wayside. Subsun takes our first sub-map of this map, but it was very back and forth, and CESU had their chances.
I say CESU looked very good actually when they got their comp to kind of play at the speed it wanted to. It's a much slower Brig Juno comp. You kind of, it's very more familiar to the Mauga, where you kind of are just playing for somebody to kind of get somebody weak, and then the Mauga jumps in, gets a CC, and DPS follow up while you guys are kind of just waiting for the right moment. Once Subsun kind of realized, oh, we need to play more aggressive, we need to get in their faces, and we need to kind of maybe change some things up, no looking back for them. They just were fully in control. It helps that they had their rotations for the ultimates also going their way. I'm curious to see if CESU makes any sort of changes, and they're showing the double flex support to bring in the Kiriko for the cleanse. I guess if you're going to give up anything, you kind of have to be the Brig. You don't want to play, if you're not comfortable on Lucio Kiriko, this is the best way to do it, but we'll have to see, because it's not the safest backline for real. Juno's very vulnerable now.
Very, very vulnerable. Maple just gets up on that high ground right there to keep themselves invisible, and everyone on CSU doesn't necessarily know where they are at the moment. Hack coming out there, not going to be able to land on the Sanic, but they do run away, but Foraic not going to be able to escape here, and this is exactly how Subsun wants to play this comp. Rotating around, Phi will be able to find 1, but that's going to be the only thing the CSU squad finds this fight.
Yeah, I actually really like this because it's forcing, what they're doing is they're allowing Maple to be the decider of when the engagements happen, which is not common. You're used to your tank or your main support, your Lucio, your Brig, being the one to call when things happen. So for Maple to kind of take this initiative role, it really puts CESU in the back foot. It's not something you really get used to seeing a lot of. Still in the neutral, I mean, again, I'm watching for Maple because Maple is going to kind of be the decider as to when fights happen and who they happen on. It's easy for Subsun to collapse on your target, so watch for Maple to kind of give the call.
LQD trying to find someone here early on. Does land a couple shots, but not going to be anything too worryful. But you lose Phi and you lose your Genji right after that. M21 starting off that fight with a bang. And hey, the fight is already all but over. Maple find the final 3.
Jeez. I mean, and Maple was in on the M21 kill too. That's what I was talking about. Maple is kind of the linchpin that initially Maple was sitting on. I think it was even like a Genji or something, but this is way more impactful. Maple's move to the Sombra has just quite literally flipped the game on ahead. 52%, and we're still not seeing any ultimates. Tells you how quick these fights have been.
Yeah, and I mean, you see M21 getting into that backline as far as they really want. Vi really not dealing with them a lot here, but Almighty gonna be able to find one immediately trade out there. So one support down for each side. You lose Ruby though here. However, CESU lost Vi. That's gonna make it very difficult for them to do anything here, because as long as the Junk Queen is still alive and kicking, this Subsun team is almost unstoppable.
Yeah, I mean, between the extra boost from the Junker Queen and just how mobile every single member of the team is, there's going to be very difficult for the cross. Kitsune Rush is up, and there's no answer from CESU, so coming into Final Fight territory at 83, this is probably as good as over.
Kitsune Rush out here early on from Story, and that's kind of been the case for all the fights. Vi again falling out here early on for Ake. LQD going by the wayside. You might not even need your Rampage here if you're M21. The Bob coming out here from Ruby. The virus is thrown on their Honda Almighty, and now it's just bowling them in the cafe. Subsun gonna convincingly take this second point of the night and give themselves 1-0 up in the series.
Yeah, you know what, Dex, you were a little concerned for Subsun in Submap 1, but I think that was just quite literally just getting the warm-up, right? Like, getting kind of helping to figure out what the game plan was, and M21 being one of those two key parts to it. Recognizing when I don't need to engage versus this Ramatra, I can just like walk by him, or I can just let the Sombra hack him, and then we can just overwhelm him. That's what this Junker Queen comp does so well. And I mean, if you really need any real explanation of how that comp is supposed to work, particularly with the Sombra kind of variant where you're waiting for the Sombra to initiate, beautifully done for them. It's a unique style of that Junker Queen hyper brawl that they just do so well.
Yeah, and I was going to talk about the Sombra play there. You don't really see them that often anymore, at least Sombra's at high level. But like you said right there, it was kind of a linchpin, especially a lot on that second point, where they were doing so much for their team. They were kind of playing off the Sombra. It worked really, really well for them, and it just seemed like CESU struggled against it. Probably because, like I said, you don't really see the Sombra that much anymore. Her perks, especially her level 2 perks, aren't necessarily the best, and some people I think really look at them as maybe some of the worst major perks in the game.
How dare you come at my son White Hat Sombra like that? How dare you? How dare you take away my 30 HP healing? I don't even know if that's right, but I know it's a very insignificant amount of healing. But yeah, no, it's not. Yeah.
Heading into our second map of the night, and well, they've decided to bring us to what is normally the second map of the night in every series. It's going to be going to King's Row here. CSU will still get the first ban here. Subsun will get the choice of sides, and I mean, honestly, if you're Subsun, I think you just go with the defensive side first. You don't really want to go for the attack here. But at the moment, I mean, hero ban's gonna be the next thing here. CSU should get the first one. Who are you going after here? Because I don't necessarily think Sombra is one you want to get after or go after here. Do you want to get rid of the Junker Queen, force Subsun to play something else, or do you want to try to shut down Ruby here or see our first support sub or ban of the night?
I mean, that's a really interesting question. I think if you are CESU, you might actually just be scared of the Sombra. You have a kind of a lot of maneuverability, so it wouldn't shock me if we saw the Sombra pick, but I'm inclined to agree with you. I kind of feel like with King's Row, there are we don't see a ton of Tracer here. You know, those flankers do have like a bit of an issue, but you're really playing a little bit more vertical, particularly on the capture point segment and you know the C Foundry segment. So I don't know that you really would be too worried about Sombra, but I could see them making, you know, kind of falling into that trap. I actually really do think the Junker Queen, like you had said, is probably like the next best pick. Junker Queen's not the best here. Like, you can get a lot of value out of her. You can kind of ignore the verticality and just force onto you, but I do think that like it's probably going to be either the Sombra or the Junker Queen just based on how that first round went. I don't think you're going to take out any real supports. You showed Akiriko. You didn't really play Lucio, so maybe you take Lucio if there's something like that. I could also just see maybe trying to protect something you prefer. I don't know what you would feel more comfortable on. Maybe you take a tank ban, like ban out something like Zarya, just so you can protect like your Mauga if that's what you want to play.
Yeah, I could see that happening here. The tank ban, I mean, I don't necessarily see them going after a tank. I felt like the tanks were even there on that first point, but then the second point they kind of started to space out. I think Junk Queen should be the way that CSU goes here. See what else M21 has in their hero pool, just to kind of show us what else they have. Because if it's just the Junk Queen, then hey, you at least know you have to try to beat them on this. But CSU, their ban should be in here in a moment. I mean, if it's not going to be the Queen, I don't think you go after the Sombra here. I really don't. No, it's gonna be the Sombra actually still.
Sombra. Yeah, like I said, like I can see being afraid of that because that was kind of dominating you in game in control. So I don't hate that. I do think it's a little bit of a trap though because you're not probably going to see the Sombra here. So the question is, what does Subsun do? I don't know. They don't really need to do anything. Brig maybe. Maybe they don't like the Brig.
I could see Brig or Juno here.
But you might want to pick up. Like, you don't really need the Juno. You might. I could see getting rid of that. That's like a decent choice. I can even see taking like an oddball pick, like a Winston or a Diva, just because maybe there's like a dive team out of CESU available in there. So like it's a bit of a gamble. They didn't show anything of that, but yeah, like Juno feels the most right, and yeah, that checks out. That checks out Dex.
Yeah, I mean, Juno was the only support that stuck around through that entire first map from them. We saw the Brig there on the first map and then swapped over to the Kiri there on the second point. It just kind of felt like this is the right way to kind of go for Subsun here. Just get rid of that Juno here, see what else the hero pool is for the other support here for CESU. We will have one sub, though, heading into our second map. But you see the bans right here. I'm going to be honest with you, Soaf. I don't think I've ever seen these two be banned on the same map before.
This is definitely a new combination. Usually, you'd kind of maybe look to take away Juno on one side with the other side taking away something else. But more importantly, we have a sub coming in here for a Subsun. It's going to be Mr. Cut there coming in on the tank HM04. That kind of signals to me that like it has to signal like a Diva or like maybe like a Winston, maybe some sort of a dive player. We have been seeing like Divas find a lot of support here and a lot of life on King's Row, so that wouldn't shock me. Because I can't imagine like Junker Queen's not great, but I can't imagine you're gonna pull them out just because it's like King's Row and you don't. I mean, do you really feel uncomfortable after that kind of a dominant win?
I mean, you're bringing in a sub here. You want to play a different playstyle. You did say we could potentially see the dive coming out of HM04 here, but most played hero is the Rhine, so you'd have to think they might want to go something a little bit more brawly. Maybe the Ramatra of their own here to kind of match CESU's. Maybe they come out with an Orisa, or they come out with, you know, the German Rectangle Man themselves here.
I mean, I've got some flashbacks from NECC where a team came out with Rectangle Man and did some work. They're gonna play the Mauga, which.
Well, no, they're attacking first, so they can tease us.
So that may not stay. Subsun coming out on the Zarya is an interesting look here. The Pharah was kind of something I was in the back of my head thinking, all right, well, Pharah has seen a lot of play here. I'm not crazy. Like, you're not, I don't know how, like, you're really kind of, this really tells me that Phi is going to use the bubbles for self-defense primarily, or to maybe peel back as if they're expecting a dive, but I don't know that, like, anybody's really a diveable target. LQD should be highly protected by the Kiriko and Lucio, if anything. And Almaty should be kind of on their own in the sky, with maybe the Kiriko to back up. CESU is going to run out on the Mauga. That's to be kind of expected. Again, this is kind of what I think they were looking to maybe do. Like, maybe with the Mauga in, they look like a different team, but you know, the Mauga here makes more sense. They're going to play slower, and they're going to try to play for a burst moment to burn someone down.
And Almaty, I mean, right now, doing a decent amount of burst damage there to Maple. Maple has to kind of back out. HM04 just wants to get into that backline almost immediately, but they get melted off the face of the earth, and Phi just kind of, you know, making the Zarya pick, which I'm going to be honest with you, I think both me and you kind of question it, making it look very, very good here at the moment.
Like, I guess that must have been predictive of the Mauga, because Mauga really wants to fight tanks. Mauga really wants to go head on against big targets, and if you can really capitalize off of that, yeah, Zarya is great for that. 30 charge isn't much, but it's enough. And now with Ruby over to the Cassidy, I do like this a little bit more. Cassidy Reaper allows you to kind of put more pressure onto the front line, which does work for Mauga. So watch that front line damage.
And the charge coming in there from HMO4 almost gets rid of that backline there for CESU, but not going to be able to find them just yet. They will get a tick out of this, though, for free. Ruby going over to the Cassidy. I like this for them a little bit better than the Widow. The Widow, I mean, them coming out of spawn on it was a very, very questionable kind of play, but they missed the flashbang, and they also missed their shots. HMO4 are going to be able to find one, but that DPS line, and it looks like the rest of Subsun going to be falling back, and so close to 2 ticks. They're not going to be able to get it, though.
No, CESU is still here. They are vibing in this DPS line. Again, it's, you know, you're not getting on the Pharah, and LQD should be, like I said, just very well protected. Now coming into the 2-minute mark means there's about a fight, maybe 2 left. And I mean, CESU just has a full rack of ultimates coming online. Subsun, Storia hit the nano, but there's no self-nano, so we're only in minor perks. It's probably going to go into HMO4, but I mean, you kind of just lose to grab. You're just going to get overwhelmed by the pure ultimates of CESU.
And I think if you're CESU, you might be looking at kind of a combo here if you want to, you know, do the grab. Yeah, the combo is going to come out,
grab
but
barrage, yep.
it's an even trade across the board there for the moment. The nano does come out by, though, able to even up that trade there. Going to be able to find one more. Actually, no, Ruby evens it right back up again, but Subsun down their tank. Not really much they can do here. Ruby trying to do something, almost getting rid of 5, but 5 finds them right back. So Subsun back to the drawing board here, but I mean, they have ultimates now coming up.
Yeah, they did weather the storm and wear it through, but I mean, there's just so much now from Subsun. Holy cow.
Ultimates, 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 and ultimates. It's all you need to win fights sometimes. And hey, if you're Subsun, you only invested 2 into that one. You won the fight, and this should be point A going over to them.
So, I know we have a small sample here, Dex, but historically on map 1, Subsun, you know, a little bit slow to wake up. Great shot from OQD. But Subsun a little slow to wake up, and then eventually just, you know, they turn up the heat and they keep it going. So, you know, they've had their slow warm-up, and now they should be ready to keep rolling. They should just, in theory, be able to keep this going. They have a high noon. It doesn't really do much, but they save sound barrier, so they are good to kind of outlast purple. Wow, those 4.
Beat coming out here from the other side, but you already lose Sir Sanic. Beat now coming out from Fourier as well. Not going to be enough to save their support counterpart. Wow. And I mean, all that just for really nothing right there. Subsun, a perfect kind of team fight engagement there. Yeah, you used your 2 ultimates, but you did force the beat out from the other side.
Yeah, but a lot of that work was just done on the back of Story as a single, it's just single purple there. Like that caught 4, and that was enough of a go button for the Subsun team to go in. You did trade for the, Fi. Yeah, she found you. I mean, Fi has this grab. There's not really much, like, grab into Kidsney Rush is a thing. It'll have to be enough to put a stop here.
I mean, right now, though, that grab could be online, but HMO4 gets rid of Almaty, but right there, Fi can be a difference maker on their own here. Going to be able to find one. Ruby falls as well, and now Subsun backing up. You still see some of their members kind of just trying to keep the pressure on so they don't force CSU to walk up as far as they kind of want to here.
Yeah, the denying a space with such a short time left is kind of so important, considering CSU has been able to hold down and kind of keep themselves alive here. Grab, I mean, sites are kind of going to be throwaway. This is getting more used for prep to kind of make sure they can get a value, see where they can grab for value. But Storia does have nano up, and major perks are online, so double nano is likely to be active, making Subsun a little bit more advantageous here.
And losing Maple here early on, I mean, the visor's really helping them make sure that Reaper was nowhere to be found there. And already, though, I mean, you see Subsun here just being pushed back. This is exactly what CSU was looking for.
Yeah, and now at the 1-minute 20 mark, this is coming in the last fight. You're still in the same situation. So watch your Story as nano. Oh. That's probably going to be a decider here.
The grab coming out, and that should just be fight right there. Ruby will find one, but that's going to be the only thing Subsun gets in this engagement. However, I mean, grab is now out, and you're coming up to 3 ultimates if you're Subsun.
You have time, too. You got the cart so far back. You know, like, there's still time for CESU to kind of hold this out. Even if they lose this fight, there's still time for one more. Dry Blade into Nano High Noon and, and Death Blossom, no cage for it, is a little frustrating, but it's going to be very easy to keep Almaty kind of at bay, especially with this Nano. So expect the Nano onto Tank and then the Ana Nano to kind of help shut down this.
You lose LQD early on. The blade now coming out from Almaty, but they get denied right there. Five trying to keep themselves alive and investing all their bubbles. The CESU also being invested on them as well, but Ruby hitting their shots right there, and CESU, well, they're wiped off the face of the map right there, and this should be Subsun getting point B.
16 seconds. There's still a chance to touch. They shouldn't. Yeah, I mean, Ruby's just throwing this in to make sure they get it. It's kind of irrelevant anyways, and you can see they'll swap off probably to take Sojourn? Oh no, they're going to take the Widow Duel. Okay, they're going to take the Widow Duel there and try to play for this. I don't hate that. There's still Maple's Death Blossom, but it's kind of irrelevant at this point. You don't really have any use for it. Maybe you catch one in the back and sneaky play, but I don't like it.
Ruby immediately finding one right there. The cage not far away here from HMO4, so you might be looking for that combo yet again. But if your team continues to find picks like this, you really don't need to combo anything. Death Blossom, well, you're not going to combo it, and you're not going to combo it anymore since you immediately died when you hit that Q button.
I kind of wonder if the Reaper is going away anyways. Okay. Decisions were made next. CESU has both support ultimates. Ruby gets an opening pick though, so I mean, that's instantly rush on. They have to move fast.
Cage and Beat coming out here from Subsun right there. Ruby not going to be able to find the grapple shot, but Maple comes right back in, gets her to 5 for it down as well. LQD trying to land their shots, but they are being bullied out by 2 members of Subsun. And now with that pick right there, Ruby finding the final 2. Subsun completes the map with 29 seconds in that time bank, and so they never really stopped once they got that second point.
Yeah, like I had said kind of earlier, it takes Subsun like a minute or two to kind of go, all right, guys, what do we need to do? How do we break this part? What do we need to do to kind of get ourselves the advantage here? And kind of as, again, had they did in map 1, it took them, you know, a couple minutes, almost near the conclusion of the capture point segment, to be like, oh, we just kind of need to make sure we overrun the Zarya, you know, we need to make sure we get on the DPS, and then we're fine. We'll make a couple swaps, and we'll do it that way. And it worked. They did get it going. They did get held up in the B segment, though, so to CESU's credit decks, like, they put up a much better fight here. They really did put up a much better fight with the Zarya lane.
No, like, and yeah, CSU, there were points during that second point hold where I really thought they might be able to do this. They might be able to get rid of that time bank and completely stop Subsun in their tracks. But it really just came down to the fact that Subsun, they were like, it was a little bit of an ult difference towards the end of it, but Subsun was struggling to actually build up ultimates throughout that entire second point push. CSU was playing that well that it basically took them almost down to what could have been considered final fight for that second point push for Subsun to have really any ultimates, which for what we saw from this team in the first map was kind of shocking from Subsun.
Yeah. I mean, it was in a lot of ways, but almost not as shocking as this comp. This is the first time they're showing us kind of any sort of a dive look with this hazard coming out. I wonder if this is maybe just like a capture point segment hold. CESU is going to show us the Junker clean up their own and LPD Sojourn. Kind of again, I'm kind of shocked we've been so long without Sojourn. But again, CESU, now they are the ones on the rush here. They just need to find a target that they can get low and then go in. But Fi is so dangerous. Gosh.
Oh, Fi will fall, but you will be able to trade out Maple, and right now it looks like HMO4 is going to fall as well. So if you are CSU, you are absolutely loving this here, but if you're Almaty, you have to be kind of cautious of where you're going. You have 2 snipers on the other side who want to shoot you out of the sky.
Yeah, there's several pieces in your face, and I don't know. I wasn't crazy about this hazard. I'm still kind of not. I know there's still a chance for the dive here, but I'm not crazy with this Pharah kind of running the show right now.
Sursanik going to be able to find one trade. It's going back and forth, but here you come again. CSU just finding everything. Almaty in that backline cleans up 2. Sursanik finds 3. It's a team kill, and CSU off to a much better start when you compare it to Subsun's run, or Subsun's first round.
Yeah, I mean, Subsun, again, they struggled to get it, but we had seen them do that. And CESU, they couldn't get their foot even in the door on the control segment, and now here on Kings Row, they're just looking like maybe the Pharah is just like the key, because it doesn't seem like Subsun has a real answer for that. Ruby's going to go over to the Sojourn, probably put some pressure onto it, and Maple with the Tracer now. We're just going to try to, kind of play the same way. We're going to let kind of counter Almaty's aggression into the back line with Maple's and kind of hope this dive works out for the best. Subsun really playing the teamwork here.
Yeah, Sleep put on the fight here pretty early on, not really going to lead to much other than just knocking them off that high ground. But right now, again, HMO4, they just kind of seem just being caught out almost every time you see them. But Maple going to be able to find Almaty right there. A huge pick early on here for Subsun as they just try to get the team fight win here. But they're doing a good job already forcing back CSU to arches, which is exactly where they want them to be.
Yeah, they want to play this choke point. They want to be able to kind of keep them there just to burn down this time. I mean, we're back to neutral on Purge, so Storia only has this kind of nano. It's probably going to go onto the hazard, and that's, I mean, they're kind of all in on these ults now.
I mean, they need to throw there on HMO4 because HMO4 without that nano was probably gonna die. So they keep them alive, keep them held at archers here. But I mean, like you said, the ultimate's coming online from both sides here.
Yeah, I don't know. This is gonna be tough. They have to focus here.
The CESU actually saves everyone there. LQD pops the overclock, finds too, but they get shut down. Even across the board at the moment, Vi going to be able to give CSU the slight advantage here early on. HMO4, they're 1 health, but they run away. Sir Sanic, though, going to be able to find them. The bomb coming out here just to get them back in the mech, but CSU coming out on top in that engagement, and hey, they still have 2 ultimates here.
Yeah, I say they didn't commit everything into it. Particularly Sound Barrier was a big one. It's going to be matched by Ants in Valiant, but Maple's Pulse Bomb, oh, an early pick on a Ruby is so huge. I mean, CESU just gets to roll this even further with 3 minutes now. Maple kind of has to be the difference maker with this Pulse Bomb because the Sound Barrier is going to get matched by should get matched by the Barrage. With Minor Perch online, Forest should be moving, so it's going to be harder to kill Almaty. Maple has to be the difference maker here.
Maple, you see them looking for that pulse bomb. Gonna have to use the recall right there. Be coming out here from Ant pretty early on, and if you're a Subsun, you need to win the fight, and you need to win it about maybe 2 seconds ago. The Barrage coming out from Almaty, gonna be able to find Storia. Kills going back and forth, but again, it's kind of been the story of this entire round. Yeah, you'll see a couple trades here and there, but CESU comes through with a vengeance. LQD with 4 minutes now on the time bank for them to complete the map.
All right, I'm gonna say it now, Dex. I don't like this, and I'm glad Subsun doesn't either. Not what I expected to get out of this. I do like the Diva, but the okay. You know what? The Iliari is quite a choice. I don't hate it. It's a unique look. It gets a little more defensive and pops more healing out, but realistically the dive was not getting on. LQD was just living through everything and thriving through it, so you have to win this duel, and that's a great way to open it up.
And I knew the moment that Ruby went back over to this Widow, they're gonna make a huge difference here, especially gonna find picks like that consistently. It's gonna force CSU to almost just play too safe at moments, and this is exactly what Subsun needed here. A good team fight win, forcing CSU back to their spawn.
Yeah, again, this Subsun, they were sitting on this dive, this hazard dive for so long, and it was just not the right matchup. It was just losing to the top. Almaty gonna give up the Faria, it's not good there. G the Genji, play for a little more Phoenix potential and flank potential, but Maple, gosh, LTV is just hitting shots.
Ruby hitting their shots right back as well. Continuing rush out here from Sir Sanic, trying to just help their team stay alive. And I love what Fi's doing. They're getting Ruby off that high ground, but they will lose their mech, and no bomb in sight to get them back into it as fast as they possibly want here. Fi's now out from Ruby, looking for anyone they can, but Maple gonna be able to find Almaty right there. Ruby finds for Egg, and there's the rest of the cleanup here from Subsun. So a minute and a half gone here, and this is exactly what they needed.
That's a big change. It paid off for them. They still have 2:30 to go, Dex, but you know, this is a start Fi going back to the Zarya, just recognizing, all right, we have the advantage if we swap the tank matchup. Self-destruct for HM4 is going to be basically just a longer life. We're going to have captured Sun in addition to what should be, I believe, a major perk Ana Nano. So watch for that Nano. Watch for the Nano on the Diva to keep her alive longer and extend this fight and hopefully keep Subsun alive.
Maple not going to be able to get themselves out of that pickle right there for it. Going to be able to find them. Ruby looking a little bit worse for wear here as well. And I thought Subsun was looking pretty good. Here comes the Captain Sun out from Ant, still holding on to it at the moment. They haven't shot just yet, but there it goes on to Fi, on the Foreg, and I believe on Sir Sanic right there as well before it. Going to be only the one that falls from that Sunburst. Fi barely staying alive. Ant going to be able to find them as well. So 2 picks here for the Ilari. LQD just trying to run away from Maple here, but it doesn't look like they're going to be able to escape. Ant with their 3rd, and now a minute and a half on the clock here.
It's taken them a while, and this seems to be a Subsun trait, is it takes them a while to figure out what they need to do to get their answer, because now you can see it. Maple is just on the back line. LQD is struggling to kind of get shots, especially when Subsun control these high grounds and these sight lines for Ruby to make shots. So Maple continues to bother the back line, and this is what they need to do the whole time, just make sure LQD could not contest and make shots. As long as they keep doing this up, they just have to survive Victoria's nano here. It's the only thing in their way to really kind of close this out.
I mean, a pulse bomb here could do a lot of damage as well. Almaty immediately gets taken very low right there. The Venom Mine going to take them out. The pulse bomb coming out from Maple won't really be able to find anyone but Ruby, already with 2, looking for a third, but they've done what they need to do here this fight. CESU falling back for what could be the final fight.
Yeah, CESU they're not respecting Ruby right now. Ruby is just kind of controlling these angles, and because of that, they're too busy trying to, push and get space in. They don't have a way to get onto Ruby, so Ruby just continues to win these line duels.
Almaty going head-to-head with HMO4 right now. They're not going to be able to survive. Visor now out here from Ruby. Almost gets a shot deflected right back into their face. Almaty has to use that dash to keep themselves alive, but this is the worst-case scenario here to start this fight. If you're CSU, you lose Fi, and you already see them on the back foot here, but it has to be up to Almaty to get a touch. LQD not going to be able to find anything here. The touch coming out here from Almaty, but they're immediately being antied up here, and they'll be taken out as well. Who's going to be the touch here for CESU? Nano thrown out the grab as well, but no one, actually no, you do see a touch coming out there from Pi. Captain Sun out as well. Bomb to seal the deal, but Subsun, I mean, 4 minutes for CESU to complete the map. Subsun made those swaps, and they just never looked back from them.
Yeah, I mean, it took them a while again to kind of get exactly what they wanted their vision to. But I mean, this is why Subsun is like a number 2 seed, right? This is why they're a top seed. They understand what they need to do, even if it takes a minute or two. Like, there's a little bit of delay, but they are still good enough to understand what needs to get done and how do they accomplish it. I had questions about the Iliari, but like, it worked. It got there. It did everything they needed to do. Racer pick worked as well. It was kind of indirectly a counter to the Pharah. But like, all those pieces really came through, and the 3-2 shows it's close. And I would say that this is definitely the closest that CESU looked within the map. Like, there was some question marks from me for them in Samoa, but Kings Row definitely showed that they have a lot of fight in them for the CESU squad.
Yeah, absolutely. But going back to the ERA play there, I think ERA might be one of those kind of sleeper picks on the support line here. Not necessarily the meta kind of 3 or 4, but not necessarily the bottom 3-4 when it comes to supports in the game at the moment. I think they have their worth, and you saw it right there from Subsun. But like you said, CSU, I mean, first point on Samoa, very close, back and forth. Second point, not close at all. But this entire map of Kings Row, really, really close. It's just when it got down to it, that final point push, it seemed like they just struggled on, especially when Ruby went back over to the Widowmaker. Even though you knew where they were going to be, they were always a struggle to get rid of them. And when Ruby has that free space, you saw what they're able to do there. Got play of the game, and they were always at least finding one headshot pick every fight, it seemed.
Yeah, they were just truly able to do what unfortunately CESU was trying to and could not. But Dex, why don't we give these guys a break? We'll take a breath, go get a glass of water, come back. We've got match point coming up after this quick break.
Water is the softest and most yielding substance, yet nothing is better than water for overcoming the hard and rigid, because nothing can compete with it. Lao Tzu.
straight new wave. Name straight new wave. Name straight new wave. Name straight new wave. Name straight new wave.
All right, welcome back, everyone, from that little halftime break right there. Currently, Subsun up 2-0 on CESU, but so that King's Row map was very, very close. Like you said, CESU looked a lot better that second map. Well, if they want to try to turn this series around, they only have one more try to do that here, and they have decided to bring us to New Junk City here. And I mean, if you ask me, this is a very, very interesting pick, considering we have seen Subsun in the past play a composition back on Samoa where you can find a lot of the same value on this map.
Yeah, but I think the difference maker here, Dex, is that on Samoa you had your Mauga band, which you clearly felt was at least one part of your, like brawl kind of ground pound kit. So I'm very curious to see if maybe they think, okay, maybe we can win with the Mauga in. I'm still not crazy on that, but I mean, we'll also have to see what bands come in as well. Kind of looking at what might be available if you're CESU. We already got rid of Queen, didn't we? No, we didn't get rid of Queen yet. So I could see them getting rid of Queen if their goal is to try to maybe swing it the other way and win the ground battle, you know, that makes the most sense to me. I could see the queen going out here and maybe that being their best chance of winning this out.
Yeah, and I think that would be the smartest move for CSU to do here. If anything else, maybe you try to get rid of, say, a hit scan so Ruby does not have their kind of go-to. But no,
Lucio?
It's going to be the Lucio instead being banned out here by CSU. And I could hear that reaction from you, Soab. I'm kind of with you right there. This is an interesting one.
Well, CESU hasn't shown us a Lucio, so if your goal is to try to maybe balance out the speed and make it more pokey, where you have found success, okay, sure, but you're then pitting a Juno Ring of your own versus a Junker Queen Shout. It does kind of force Subsun to play differently now. Subsun has a response that could also be to help protect maybe a support that they were looking for. I don't even know what Subsun would get rid of here. Maybe Zarya. Maybe Zarya is the one thing you're kind of maybe concerned about. Pharah was like an option. You were kind of dominated by the Pharah, but Pharah's not particularly great on New Junk City, so I could see them maybe taking
Could you get rid of Genji?
Zarya out of the pool. Genji? Yeah, but you weren't winning the Genji. You weren't losing that Genji fight.
Pharah, though.
Yeah, Pharah. Okay. Yeah, because you were getting bullied by the Pharah. That was kind of half of your problem on King's Row. She's not great here, but there's definitely enough open areas where maybe you could try to force it and get value, especially if you are struggling like Subsun was earlier in King's Row. These picks have been very kind of fear-based decks, and I think that's a reasonable pick.
Yeah, they've been all reactionary kind of picks coming out here for CSU. But we do have a substitution coming back in here for Subsun. M21 back in. I remember they played that Junk Queen almost to perfection, in my opinion, back on Samoa. And I kind of expect them to be playing that Junk Queen again here on New Junk City. And I mean, like we kind of said, if there was going to be a really smart ban for CESU, it might have been that Junk Queen for this map. And you might have seen maybe HMO4 stay in because of it.
Yeah, but hear me out, Dex. So what this Junker Queen Hyper Rush kind of does is it really does, you know, look to initiate and then reinitiate. So you're looking at maybe spending Lucio speed to, you know, initiate, and then the Junker Queen to kind of either push in or pull back when you engage or disengage appropriately. Without the Lucio, you do kind of mess with how the Junker Queen has to be played. You either are now looking at the Junker Queen to engage, or you're looking at them to kind of maybe use that to kind of keep everybody alive, like how you use Lucio's amp. So I'm wondering if this is maybe some sort of a mental tactic of maybe slowing the game down and then also kind of throwing off Subsun's preferred comp. They are going to match them on the Junker Queen, but we will also see the Brig Juno, you know, kind of get matched to it. LQD is going to go to the, you know, aggressive short range Cassidy, which first time we've seen them today to kind of match into Maple. So it's different, two different ways to run the same comp here. So this is going to be very interesting to see who can adapt to this slightly slower Hyper Rush comp.
And it's very interesting to see Ruby come out on something that's not really a hit scan player. Instead, they're out on the Tracer. Their torpedoes coming out there from both sides. Really just going to heal up everyone and do some damage, but not necessarily enough to really make a difference. Subsun, again, though, starting off a little bit slow this fight. CSU, though, they kind of have to play safe here as well. Phi, though, maybe playing a little bit too aggressively, and M21 going to win out the Queen duel here early on. Subsun gets the first cap, and M21 is wreaking havoc in the back line. Already 3. Ruby will pick up the 4th, but LQD.
Wow, what a knife. What a knife.
4.
Oh, that was madness, Dex. That was incredible. M21 put on a masterclass here for this Junker Queen. Just phenomenal. You know, it's a lot of pressure now on these flex supports, these Junos, because these rings become so important. And, you know, seeing kind of the later use of the ring kind of is going to show us who is saving resources or is getting aggressive first like that.
I'm going to be able to land there on the Phi again. And Phi very, very low here. Going to be able to fall back just far enough to get some health. Deadeye already out from LQD here. Looking to find anyone they can. Just zoning out, it seems. Not going to be able to find anyone, but Phi will be able to find Maple because of it here. So an early advantage for CESU, but they're trying to find the follow-up. They will get the point flip here as Subsun just trying to play safe. Knife, another nice knife there. Rampage coming out from M21 will land onto 3, but Phi getting rid of Ruby. And now looking for a little bit more here. M21, though, will be able to take care of Sir Sanic, but it seems like CSU should come out on top here.
Yeah, it'll be a bit more of a delayed fight. 21 is surrounded, but I kind of don't think this has big, you're trapped in here with me energy up until that axe happened. You know, a little bit staggered, but Subsun, like 77% means that they are, you know, one fight and win. They spent a lot to get there. They'll have, you know, they do have their laser coming up. It's going to be matched by pretty much anything. So Phi and their Rampage is going to kind of, I think, be the difference maker here. Phi plus this Blade coming in from Almaty is probably going to be they're probably going to decide this fight. So I'm watching Storia now to see if they can really kind of shut down the Genji in this kind of ultimate play.
Rally out early here from Storia, and if you're Subsun, you're trying to win this fight early because of it here. If you're CSU, now you just need to be reactionary. There comes the Blade out there from Almaty, looking for anyone, but the Death Blossom gonna be able to find them. Ruby finds Phi right there. They pop their Rampage out as well. Orbital Ray out from Ant. Subsun back in control of the point here, but if you're CSU, I don't know if you really re-engage into this one here.
It's not worth it. You're just kind of staggering out, and Subsun have been very good about being these very delayed picks. They'll get one more, and now it's just the Genji who's going to barely beat. Nope, never even going to make it out. So point one going the way of Subsun. On to two, and I mean, considering Sanic, all right, here, you know, the good of all this is that Sanic did hold on to Orbital Ray. You have a High Noon coming into it. High Noon, a little bit of a throwaway here, but I mean, like, there's nothing to stop this Ray deck, so CESU do stand a good chance. You know, I'm just concerned because M21 Rampages around the corner, and if that lands, it's basically all over.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're Stanek, you really need to use that Ray fast here. Deadeye coming out here from LQD to trying to zone out, but there comes the Ray from Sir Stanek. LQD not gonna be able to find anything. The Rampage is out there, does land on the 2, but no one really finding it just yet. However, that Orbital Ray has come and gone, and nothing really comes from it right there instead of Subsun already cleaning up this fight. It's gonna be a team kill, and the point be capped second.
CESU, it felt like they were really going to say, okay, we can try to play them, you know, try to change the game and try to match them on their own. And unfortunately, they haven't been successful on it. Subsun has just kind of been, you know, I hate to say it, but like M21 has just been the tank difference maker, has been showing up in the kill feed and making the difference. Ruby is holding onto the pulse bomb here. You know, it's probably going up to Juno, is my guess. So watch for Ruby in the back line.
Axe coming out, they're going to be able to land there on the 5, but LQD already taken out here early on. Ruby did invest the pulse bomb, did not find anyone with it, but I mean, just look at the rest of CSU here. They're already backing up, losing LQD out here early on.
And Maple finds a second. Reaper has been one I've kind of largely ignored talking about because the Maple is just kind of doing the same thing as LQD, just at a different, you know, kind of perspective. Reaper is very good about, you know, as a short range kind of damage dealer, but those shotguns are so much more valuable into a large target like Phi, like the Junker Queen. So, you know, it kind of doesn't shock me when you see this kind of two-man just hit squad running at you. Like, that is a brutal hit squad of Maple and M21 just coming at you. That is so much damage between those 3 shotguns there that they can just wear you down. It's now match point, and I mean, the Blade, again, this Blade Rampage combo has to be huge. I wouldn't be shocked if Subsun goes aggressive on it, but CESU need to have a little discipline. They need to make sure they can kind of just kind of wait out Storia's rally if they go aggressive. You need to use that ring to disengage here.
Yeah, and talk about just CSU not getting lucky at all here. Subsun has been able to get to these these points 2 and 3 here first as well. Death Blossom coming out, gonna be able to find one M21, gonna be able to find LQD, and much like point 2, this fight is already over before the point was even able to be capped.
I don't know how that man's got away with it, Dex. Maple should not have gotten away with that. That was straight into a pack of 3. Not a question, not a brig bash, no escape. That was quite literally telegraphed. So that was a free win for Subsun. They'll get point. Still, same conditions apply. CESU has 4. They should just be able to win out a longer fight here. Never mind. We're done.
Rally out early on, Rampage out as well. Looks like it only finds on to LQD, but it doesn't necessarily matter when, again, the fight is already over before it really even started. Rampage, though, out from the other side, does land on the 3 there. Almaty gonna be able to find one of their Blade, but you see them kind of hiding right now because they are very low on health. Almost able to find Maple right there, but Maple able to back up. Pulse Bomb out again from Ruby, not gonna be able to find anyone, but Ant gets rid of the Genji right there. Rally now out from 4A, and you need this to go your way here if you're CESU. Deadeye here from LQD needs to be able to find one, but the Orbital Rays, this entire series, really haven't been much to write home about, as now Subsun's is basically a wasted one right there, and CSU, the rally, was enough to get them through. They have hope here again.
Yeah, that was kind of a blessing in disguise for Ant to throw out that and get no real value. It cost you everything for CESU to get it, but you needed it. Like you said, 90% means we're kind of one fight away from losing this. So, I mean, Sursanic has their close to laser, and Ruby just hits the shot here, which means Subsun has the man advantage. And once they start moving in, it's over. They don't even see that. I don't think they see it.
Here's your Ruby clip for the season here. Already finding one, but Fi will be able to shut down M21 right there, but Subsun, look at them, heading to point, gonna be able to capture their nice shield bash by Storia. LQD will find Ruby, so CSU does to have the man advantage here at the moment, but you look at Maple so close to a Death Blossom. You lose Storia, you're not gonna see the Death Blossom come out here, and looks like CSU gonna be able to survive yet again here, gonna be able to cap the point, and now if you're Subsun, and you have one ultimate coming up here, but CSU in a much better spot.
I swear, Dex, if Maple just teleports in, okay, that's a good pick for that's a good pick for CESU. That's huge. I swear, if Maple just teleports in and gets value again, I'm leaving. I'm just done. You cannot allow this man to just go in. Ruby gonna go over the soldier at speed because they know they can close this out. That's early. That's too early, Dex.
I think this is actually just right. They're going to be able to find M21, but someone on the point right now. It might just be Maple there. Yep, it is Maple holding on to the Death Blossom right now. Not going to pop it here early on. Ruby does find Fi, so they want to invest if they could, but it just seems like Subsun is going to give up this point.
Okay.
CSU keeps their map hopes alive here.
You know what? I wasn't crazy about that, but it worked out in their favor, and that's all they needed it to do, so they stay alive. And that was a relatively cheap fight win too, Dex. They saved Rampage, they saved High Noon, they saved Rally. So they are going into this with next, and now Subsun is kind of in this weird spot. Soldier Reaper is a very odd line. It's mobile. It doesn't do a ton, like it's a little bit bursty. It's kind of maybe a bit simpler, but Ruby's kind of stuck on the Soldier now, and you know, not ideal for a great hit scan player. You kind of rather would play for something like Sojourn, but you're already here. You're 60% advisor, so you're going to live on it. But you have to survive CSU's onslaught of ultimates. They get the initial point capture likely.
Rampage comes out, only hits on the 2 right there. Maple holding on to their Death Blossom still. Rally, though, out here from Storia early on. LQD pops that Deadeye, looking just to zone out a little bit here. Maple just decides that they don't want to be here at the moment. The Blade, though, from Almaty finds one, looking to find 2 right there. Death Blossom out from Maple, not going to find the same value it has in the past. And Almaty, 1, 2, 3, and almost make it 4 right there after the fact. But if you're CESU, you are really liking that fight right there. However, maybe a little bit of an overinvestment.
Arguably. I mean, the Blade really did cement it, but you also had to burn through quite a lot. But again, you burned through a lot, and now the pendulum swings the other way. There's a Rampage for M21. There's a Orbital Ray. Ruby still finally is, getting to Visor territory. And we haven't seen a lot of value. We haven't seen a lot of, Visor, Orbital Ray play, but it does get value. It gets work done.
Orbital Ray out from one side, Rally out here from CESU. There's the Rampage, hits on to 2. The Visor now coming in as just a cleanup crew at the moment, but you're starting to see Subsun clean up this fight here already. Ruby will find one there with the Tri-Rockets, but right now it's just Almaty on their own, trying to stay alive as long as they can. Almaty and Sursanic will fall right there. Subsun now back in control, but CSU in a really, really good spot right now if they can retake the point.
I was saying, this is kind of almost one fight territory at 77, means a slightly extended fight, or a quick fight means that they can kind of win it in one if they shut it down quick. We're back to neutral here, and Sanic has this Ray. The last one was successful. They need to do it again. I want to see if CSU get aggressive into this, because that's not what Subsun is looking and expecting for. Subsun is used to being the aggressor. If CSU move quickly, they can win this.
There's the Orbital Ray out from Sursanic. It's going to be a really good one right here, but Subsun just falling back and rotating back. Very, very smart here. They're going to let CSU take back the point, but, I mean, Subsun really has nothing to re-engage the point with. LQD will have the zoning Deadeye here, and it's going to be used just for that probably once Subsun tries to get going towards the point. There it is. Deadeye is out. They're looking for anyone, but M21 going to be able to find Aeg here. The Deadeye not going to be able to find anyone just yet, but CSU one fight win away from forcing us to a point number 5 here. The Rampage out from 5 finds 3, but you're still seeing Subsun find all the picks. The Death Blossom from Maple finds 2, and Subsun now in the driver's seat.
Wow. That was a tough investment. You're going to have to throw everything at this to kind of touch. And it's looking at Almaty, who has a blade. There's nothing to back it up here. It's going to have to touch, games to touch, and then maybe find value, but it's already countered out, Dex.
Eye on the ball, going to be able to come back, get a touch as well, but Almaty does find one with the blade right there, so still, they're finding some value with here. The touch is there. The Rampage out, though, from M21 finds 3, and you see him fall one by one like dominoes right there. CSU, now all your hopes are in LQD, but the shotgun from M21 ends it right there, and Subsun going to be moving on to take on the Dilducks in the next round with a 3-0 sweep.
They earned it. I mean, they were, I believe, the #2 seed, and they absolutely earned this victory here. A dominant force, just from top to bottom. You know, there were moments where maybe they looked a little wavered, maybe they faltered a little bit, but you know, you can't win every single fight like that. Sometimes, you know, Maddie's just going to hit a 3K, the fight's going to fall apart and not go your way. So, for what it's worth, you know, that was a very clean game from Subsun. You know, it looks a little bit closer here. The 3-2 on Kings Row in particular, you know, maybe gives you a little concern if you are, you know, looking at the rest of this. Maybe thinks this, you know, this #2 seed is killable. But like the 2-0 Samoa was very good on the whole. Like, you know, they won one of the sub maps in a whole sweep, 100-0. And New Junk City, they kind of, you know, they probably could have arguably taken, you know, the 1 point they gave up. They could have fought for it, but that was just for more recognizing the longer game. So. A well-deserved victory for the side of Subsun.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of touched on it there. CSU did look a little bit better they got better as the entire series went on, but I mean, New Junk City, I think the fact that Subsun came out and won those first 2 points, how they did dominantly as well, kind of put CSU in a spot where if they were going to come back, they needed every break to go their way. They just did not have it there at the end. I mean, Almaty getting the kill with the blade really gave me a lot of hope there that maybe with Fi coming back on that ball, you might be able to see CSU kind of keep that contest alive, maybe even find another pick here or there. Getting rid of that Brig early on, I thought might have been able to help him out, but no. It just seemed like M21 on that Jungle Queen, it was just scary throughout the entire night, and they were very scary there again as they were able to build up to that Rampage.
Yeah, I mean, M21, we you know, you've seen Romani, we've seen a lot of these very high-skill Junker Queen players, and I think M21 is making a case for themselves there to show that they have a lot of chops on that hero. You know, fortunately for CESU decks, there's a lower bracket they will go on to play. We unfortunately don't have that set up because it's so early in the, you know, it's so early. We are literally like day 2 of playoffs, so we don't quite have it set up yet, but they will. You know, the dreams aren't done yet, but it is going to be a tough road in that loser's bracket. Subsun, as you mentioned, will go on to play the #1 seed in the Dilducks, and historically that has not gone their way, so they really need to have learned a lot from this. You know, this is going to be quite a ride of a bracket for all of these teams. Oh, do we have it? Maybe we do.
I was trying to figure out who they play here, but it's weird because there's no match 15 in the lower bracket, which this one was. They might actually get lucky here, and they might end up getting a bye in the first round of the lower bracket.
That seems feasible, just because of how this open division is big, mind you. We took 12. We took 12 teams, so mind you, this is going to be it is kind of hard to say. So there's going to be this. But let's take a quick. I don't know, Dex. How you feeling?
I'm up for it. Let's do it. So we're gonna throw it over to a quick. Yeah, we're gonna throw it over to a quick break and get someone in here from Subsun, do an interview. And so everyone, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everyone, from the break. Again, it was Subsun sweeping CESU here 3-0 in our series tonight, but we are pleased to be joined by not one, but two members from Subsun, Ant Halen and Maple. Guys, hey, congratulations on the series victory, a 3-0 sweep in round one. I imagine this is exactly what you guys wanted to get after that, the pick'em that we
draft
had.
show there.
Yeah, the draft show.
Draft show. Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's a nice start considering what's ahead, but before we talk about what's ahead, I want to know, because it felt like from moment one you guys kind of knew exactly what you wanted to do, like that first MAGA ban, and just straight down the road. It feels like you guys kind of knew, calculated, like what do you want to do? Did you guys like watch back? Did you guys like really know what you were going to do going into this, or was it just kind of let's go in and play our game and just kind of vibe and see what happens? Sure. Well, since I got you here, Maple, it was, it was kind of the odd horse in the room was that Reaper of yours, but it really felt like it made a difference in like across most of those comps. Without, you don't have to give away the whole house, but like, was the Reaper like a super calculated pick? Is that just like comfort for you? Like, is that something, like, tell me a little bit why the Reaper? Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But hey, you guys are now moving on to the next round, where you guys will go up against a opponent you guys have played not once but twice already this season in Dale Ducks. Only team to take a map off them so far. Does that give you guys a lot of confidence here, especially as the Dale Ducks just qualified in from that promotion relegation thing for OWCS?
Respect.
Yeah, absolutely. But hey, guys, before we let you all go for the night, we want to give you the floor to shout out anyone or anything you guys want. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Absolutely. But guys, thank you so much for coming in here and doing this interview. Again, everyone, this was Maple and Aunt Halen from your victors here tonight of Subsun. Guys, we'll let you go and now celebrate that victory with the rest of your team and hope and prepare for Dilducks in your guys' next round game. All right. Thank you, guys. All right. So, a very, very good series here tonight for Subsun. CESU, though, like we said, looked a little bit better as the series went on. Just wasn't able to put a whole map together here. But Subsun, they got their pick here to play CSU, and they made it worth their while.
Yeah, they definitely got the full value that they wanted out of it. And like you said, they're coming up against their number 1 seed, the Dilducks. That is no joke. That is going to be a tough, so they will probably, unfortunately, need that eventual lower bracket. So, for CESU, still plenty of time to keep fighting alive. And for Subsun, yeah, look, you hear those guys. They're just grateful to be here. They're here. They know what they're up against, but I think they'll give the Dilducks a run for the money. We'll have to check in on them later in the week for it.
Yeah, and like we said, upsets do happen here. We have seen some insane upsets before in these open tiers in the past, so I'm not putting it too far away from them. But that will pretty much wrap it up here for us tonight. But y'all don't fret. There's going to be a lot more CGL playoff action tomorrow. We'll have a EU game and an NA game at 4 p.m. EST tomorrow. We'll have Professional going against VA Mystic Coven on the EU side of the bracket. And tomorrow night, at 10 p.m. again, it will be another NA open tier series of Retirement Home and team versus Team Can't Climb. That should be a really fun series. That was originally a series we thought we were doing here tonight, but
I was gonna say I'm really excited. Like, that is gonna be a fun game. Both of those squads are like just here to have fun, or shocked they even made it in. So that is sure to be like a good goofy time if you enjoy just kind of fun free for all Overwatch. It's gonna be good.
Yep. But like I said, that'll do it for us. Just want to give a quick shout to Time to Light and the bakery for doing all the behind the scenes stuff here tonight. So thank you as well. But that'll do it for us here at CGL tonight. Remember, tune back in tomorrow for 2 great playoff games. Until then, hope you all have a good night and see you tomorrow.